person case in Dubai. It started as a missing, it ended as a story no one was allowed to tell. On the night of March 18, 2023, at precisely 9:47 p.m., the security cameras at the Al Noor Residences, a luxury high-rise in Dubai's Marina district, captured a final, unremarkable image of Leila Hartman. She was alone, dressed in white jeans and a pale blue blouse. A slim gold chain hung around her neck, the same one she had worn in most of her photos. She appeared calm, distracted perhaps, scrolling on her phone as she stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. She was never seen again. That single minute of footage became the last confirmed record of Leila's existence. The next morning, 9 a.m., Leila failed to report for duty at Emirsky Aviation, the elite private charter company that employed her. Colleagues assumed she had overslept. By noon, she had missed two scheduled flights, one to Doha, another to Zurich. Calls to her phone went straight to voicemail. By evening, her friends began calling building security. When they entered her apartment with management, everything appeared to perfect. The air conditioning hummed softly. The bed was made. Her luggage was unpacked. A half-finished cup of tea sat on the kitchen counter. No signs of struggle. No blood. No forced entry. Her passport was missing, but her wallet, cards, and laptop were still there. By 10:30 p.m., the building's CCTV footage was pulled. At first glance, it showed her returning home from a short grocery trip. Then nothing. Between 2 o'clock and 4 a.m., all camera data from her floor was corrupted. Maintenance logs later confirmed that someone had accessed the security system remotely that night. When the IT manager was asked if footage could be recovered, he simply replied, "Not without knowing who deleted it." Police were called the next day, but the response was brief, procedural, detached. They noted that Leila was a foreign national, South African by birth, and advised her employer to wait 48 hours. They suggested she may have left voluntarily, but her family knew better. Leila was meticulous, structured, and disciplined to a fault. She never missed a flight, never ignored her mother's calls, and she had already booked her next shift, a VIP charter bound for Rome, the same route where she had once met the man who would change her life. By March 20th, her name was quietly removed from the company's internal roster. Her email access was revoked. Her staff ID was deactivated. When her mother, Leila Hartman, called from Cape Town to demand updates, she was told there was no active investigation. 3 days after her disappearance, Elaine filed a formal missing persons report with Dubai police. What followed was silence. The case number was issued, then closed within weeks for lack of evidence. What the public didn't know, what few people even suspected, was that behind Leila's polite smile and professional demeanor lay a relationship that could shake the foundations of a royal family. And if the whispers were true, that relationship might explain why every trace of her life was being erased piece by piece. By April 2023, Leila Hartman no longer existed on any public record in the UAE. Her social media had vanished. Her bank accounts were dormant. Her apartment was reclaimed by a holding company linked to Al Rashid Group, one of the nation's most influential conglomerates. And yet people remembered her. Her co-workers, the pilots, the other attendants. They spoke in hushed tones about the girl who got too close, the one who didn't understand the rules. The last person to speak to her was a colleague named Marina Costa, who recalled a chilling phone call less than 24 hours before Leila vanished. She sounded scared. Marina told investigators. She said, "If anything happens to me, don't believe what they say. Promise me that." That call was never traced. To this day, Dubai authorities maintain that no foul play was detected. But digital forensics later confirmed that someone had accessed Leila's apartment keycard log, building security network, and company employment files, all within hours of her disappearance. Whoever did it knew exactly where to look and exactly what to erase. Long before her name was whispered behind palace walls, Leila Hartman was a woman defined by ambition and control. Born in Cape Town, South Africa, in 1997, she was the only child of a single mother, Leila Hartman, a nurse who worked double shifts to fund her daughter's education. Leila grew up in a small apartment overlooking Table Bay, surrounded by the noise of the city and the smell of aviation fuel drifting in from the airport nearby. That scent fascinated her. By 16, she was spending hours at the observation deck of Cape Town International, memorizing airline call signs, sketching planes in her notebook. She wasn't interested in the glamour of travel. She wanted the precision, the control, the certainty that came with flight. At 21, she earned her commercial pilot's license, but soon found that breaking into a male-dominated industry was harder than mastering the skies. She pivoted to aviation management, and by 24, she had landed a position at Maersk Aviation, an exclusive charter firm serving some of the world's wealthiest clients. It was a company built on silence. Confidentiality clauses were signed before first paychecks. Photos were forbidden. Clients were referred to only by initials. Leila adapted quickly, polite, poised, and invisible when needed. Within months, her discretion earned her access to the company's most private assignments, royal charters, royal executives, foreign dignitaries. She was the kind of employee you could trust with a secret, one former co-worker said. Elegant, efficient, no ego. But she had this light. She made powerful men notice her, even when she didn't mean to. That attention would become her undoing. In October 2021, Leila was assigned to a private charter to Rome under the name Project Falcon. The manifest listed only one VIP passenger, AR, initials that carried weight inside a Maersk. She was told not to ask questions, not to make eye contact, and to hand her phone over before boarding. At precisely 6:15 a.m., a man in a dark suit boarded the jet flanked by two aides. He gave a brief nod, spoke in English with a soft accent, and disappeared into the cabin. That man was Prince Omar al-Rashid, son of Sheikh Karim al-Rashid, one of the UAE's most powerful petroleum magnates, and a member of the country's ruling elite. Omar was 29, educated at Oxford, fluent in 5 languages, and the face of Dubai's modern royal image, philanthropist, investor, humanitarian. To the public, he was untouchable. To those who worked near him, he was complicated, charming, impulsive, unpredictable. The first flight was uneventful. But 3 weeks later, Omar specifically requested the same attendant. Miss Hartman only, his office had written. From then, their paths intertwined. He chartered flights that aligned perfectly with her schedules: Monaco, Istanbul, Zurich, Marrakesh. He began speaking to her casually during flights, asking about her family, her dreams, her life in South Africa. To her colleagues, he was polite but distant. To Leila, he was magnetic. It started with gifts, small, personal, and impossibly specific. Her favorite perfume, left anonymously in her locker. Handwritten notes quoting Pablo Neruda and Rumi. Once, an emerald pendant with a note, "For luck, until we meet again." She didn't tell anyone at first, but when the charters became more frequent, the rumors began. Some said she had caught the prince's eye. Others whispered that she was naive to think it would last. Still, Leila believed him. By mid-2022, their relationship had moved beyond the jet cabin. She was flown privately to secret weekend getaways, a villa in the Maldives, a penthouse in Monaco, a secluded estate outside Muscat. Witnesses recalled seeing her traveling under an alias, Ms. Elaine Rose, her mother's name, altered just enough to pass unnoticed. Omar made promises, reckless ones. He told her he would leave his title, his fiancée, and start over. He claimed the engagement to Princess Leila bint Salman, daughter of a Saudi oil magnate, was political, arranged since childhood. He said he loved her, a friend later testified. He told Leila she was the only person who made him feel human. But in the world they inhabited, love was dangerous. Every interaction left a digital footprint, messages, hotel bookings, phone calls. And in a monarchy obsessed with image, that kind of footprint was a liability. By late 2022, Leila began to notice subtle changes. Omar grew distant, his replies curt, his tone cold. His staff stopped acknowledging her. Travel requests ceased. And when she finally confronted him, during what friends described as a tense dinner in Istanbul, witnesses say he left abruptly, leaving her alone at the table. Weeks later, a gift arrived at her apartment, a diamond bracelet and a note reading, "For everything that must remain unspoken." To outsiders, it seemed like a breakup. To Leila, it felt like a warning. By January 2023, Leila Hartman's once glamorous world began to shrink into something smaller, quieter, and suffocating. Her friends noticed first. She stopped posting on social media, stopped joining crew dinners, and avoided any conversation that mentioned Omar. Her eyes, once bright and alert, seemed distant, haunted even. When colleagues asked what was wrong, she'd shrug and smile faintly, as though she didn't want to burden anyone. But beneath the surface, her life had already begun to unravel. Leila confided in only two close friends, both flight attendants. In those private conversations, often whispered late at night over tea, she described strange occurrences that had started weeks earlier. Sometimes, she told one of them, I see the same car parked outside my building for hours. Black SUV, tinted windows, always the same spot. At first, she thought she was imagining it. Dubai's Marina district was full of security vehicles and luxury cars. But then came the second sign, her phone. It began lagging, freezing mid-call. Texts wouldn't send. Once, her banking app alerted her of an attempted login from an untraceable IP in Riyadh. When she called her service provider, they said nothing was wrong. Then, one night, she returned home to find her apartment door slightly ajar. Inside, nothing was missing, no valuables, no forced entry, no damage. But the air felt wrong, heavy. Her things had been moved just enough for her to notice. A framed photograph turned face down. A perfume bottle shifted half an inch on the dresser, a single shoe out of place. She called the building's security desk. They reviewed footage and found that the camera facing her door had gone black for 6 minutes that evening. When it returned, the hallway was empty. Leila started documenting everything. She began keeping a physical journal, handwritten, hidden beneath a loose kitchen tile. In it, she recorded dates, times, license plates, and her interactions with Omar or what remained of them. He no longer replied to her messages. When he did, his tone was cold, detached, even irritated. One message from February 3rd reads simply, "You need to stop. This isn't helping either of us." A week later, delete everything. To her, those words felt like a threat. She called her mother in Cape Town several times that month. Their conversations grew shorter, more strained. In one call, she said, "If anything happens to me, don't believe what they say. Promise me that." Elaine laughed it off, assuming her daughter was exhausted. But Leila wasn't joking. As the weeks passed, her anxiety deepened. She noticed men she didn't recognize in her building's lobby. She received blank calls late at night. Once, while driving to work, her rearview mirror caught the same car following her through 3 intersections. She tried reporting it to the local police, but the officer she spoke to only asked for her ID and shrugged. "Dubai is safe, madam," he said. "Maybe you imagine too much." But she wasn't imagining it. Someone was closing in. That month, Leila stopped flying. She requested personal leave from Emirski, citing illness. In truth, she was trying to gather proof screenshots, printed messages, digital backups of everything she'd shared with Omar. She was planning something dangerous, something irreversible. On March 10th, Leila met with a journalist from the Global Tribune, a British investigative outlet with a small Dubai bureau. Sources close to the paper later claimed she provided documents and messages implicating a high-profile figure, though the journalist who met her vanished from Dubai days later, his visa revoked overnight. Whatever she had shown him never resurfaced. By March 15th, Leila had made up her mind. She told her friends she was done hiding, that she planned to go public. She wanted the truth out, not for revenge, but survival. She said they were going to bury her story, one friend recalled. She said she'd rather tell it herself before they silenced her. On March 17th, she sent Omar one final message. "You said you'd protect me. I'm giving you one last chance to prove it." He never responded. The next day, March 18th, she vanished. That night, she was seen entering her building at 9:47 p.m. alone, calm, unaware she was walking into the last documented moment of her life. Hours later, her apartment door was found unlocked. Her journal was gone. Her phone was missing. And by dawn, every trace of Leila Hartman was being methodically erased. When the Dubai police first logged the missing person report for Leila Hartman, it read like a routine file. Female, 26, South African national. Last seen entering residence on the 18th of March 2023 at 21:47. No signs of struggle. But by the time Leila's mother arrived from Cape Town 6 days later, the case had already begun to dissolve quietly, deliberately. Leila Hartman met with the duty officer at Al Barsha station. He was polite, well-spoken, and entirely unhelpful. "Madam, sometimes young women leave of their own will. Maybe she met someone," he said. "My daughter is not missing by choice," Elaine replied. The officer smiled thinly and handed her a number that would never be answered again. Inside Emirski Aviation, Leila's profile disappeared almost overnight. Her company email bounced. Her photo was removed from the crew registry. When a coworker asked HR why, she was told Leila had resigned due to relocation. Yet no resignation letter existed, and no forwarding address was ever provided. When the Hartman family hired a private investigator, he uncovered something chilling. Between 2:03 a.m. and 3:54 a.m. on March 19, the window when Leila is believed to have vanished, the building's security servers were accessed remotely. The entire segment of CCTV data covering her floor, the lobby, and the parking garage had been deleted. Not corrupted, not damaged, deleted, overwritten with meaningless static. The access came from an encrypted IP address belonging to a private security firm registered to Al Rashid Holdings. When the investigator tried to question the firm's regional office, he was told his visa was under review. 2 days later, he was deported. Elaine went to the South African consulate, begging them to pressure local authorities. The embassy issued a formal inquiry to the royal court of the Al Rashid family. The response was brief. "We have no knowledge of this individual or any association with members of our family." No denial, no acknowledgement, just a statement engineered to close the door. Behind that door, something was happening. Anonymous sources within Dubai's aviation network began leaking fragments of information. A flight log showing a private jet departing Al Maktoum Airport at 3:27 a.m. less than an hour after Leila was last seen. The jet, registered to a shell company in the British Virgin Islands, had no passenger manifest. Its destination, Defa Atoll, a privately leased island in the Indian Ocean, owned through a maze of offshore trusts linked to the Al Rashid Group. When journalists from the Global Tribune tried to verify the flight, the UAE Civil Aviation Authority refused comment, citing national security. Within a week, the Tribune's Dubai bureau was shuttered. Back in Cape Town, Elaine received strange messages. A man with a distorted voice called from an unlisted number, saying, "Stop asking questions. Your daughter is safe. Let it go." 2 days later, a sealed envelope arrived at her apartment containing 50,000 dirhams in cash, no note, no return address. She turned it over to local police. They never identified the sender. Meanwhile, Leila's digital life began vanishing piece by piece. Her Instagram vanished first, user not found. Then her Facebook, LinkedIn, WhatsApp. Her email accounts were deleted without password resets. Even her bank profile was locked under security review. It was as though someone had pressed erase on every trace of her existence. Forensic analysts hired by the family discovered that her data had been purged through coordinated requests under the UAE's Cyber Protection Act, an authority only government agencies or royals could invoke. Whoever orchestrated it had resources beyond the reach of any ordinary person. By late April, Leila's apartment was emptied. The landlord, a holding company associated with the Rashid Property Group, repossessed the unit and replaced the locks. Her furniture was removed, her mail returned to sender. When Elaine went to collect her daughter's belongings, she was told there were none. Her neighbors remembered a woman in uniform, polite and quiet. They remembered the night the lights in her apartment stayed on until dawn, and then never again. One neighbor, a British expatriate, recalled seeing men in suits carrying boxes out of Leila's flat at 4 a.m. They said they were cleaning staff, she told reporters. But cleaners don't wear earpieces. When asked for comment, the building management declined. When pressed, the police claimed no criminal evidence. Case closed. But the more they erased, the louder the story became. Leila's co-workers whispered that she had kept something, files, screenshots, maybe even videos, proof of her relationship with Prince Omar Al Rashid. Others said she had threatened to release them if he didn't keep his promises. One thing was certain, by the time she disappeared, someone with power wanted her gone. And Dubai, a city that thrives on immaculate surfaces, made sure the cracks were sealed tight. For months after Leila's disappearance, her mother refused to leave Dubai. Every morning, Leila Hartman walked the same stretch of Jumeirah Beach, past the empty shoreline where yachts glittered like floating jewels, past the towers that gleamed with mirrored glass, hiding 1,000 private worlds. She carried a photo of Leila in her uniform, smiling on the tarmac beside a Gulfstream jet, the city skyline behind her. To her, it wasn't just a photo. It was proof that her daughter had existed. But existence, in places built on money and monarchy, is negotiable. By June 2023, official investigations had concluded. The Dubai police classified Leila's case as voluntary disappearance. Interpol closed their file 3 weeks later, citing a lack of jurisdiction. Her name faded from databases, her passport flagged as inactive. Elaine hired new investigators, one from London, another from Nairobi, both claiming they had sources within Dubai's royal security network. Both men vanished after initial contact. Their emails bounced, their numbers went dead. When a third investigator, a former pilot named Simon Riedel, came forward, he spoke cautiously. "There's a pattern," he told Elaine. Every woman connected to the al-Rashid family who talks, disappears. Some leave quietly, others just don't. He handed her a single USB drive. On it, fragments of deleted flight data, referencing a special transfer on the night of March 19, 2023. The coordinates matched a landing strip on Defa Atoll, the same private island linked to Prince Omar's trust network. Within days of sharing that file, Riedel's apartment in Lisbon was broken into. The drive was stolen. He left the country soon after. Elaine was left with nothing but a list of disconnected facts, each one pointing toward a truth that no one dared to name. By August, Leila's brother, Noah, began posting online. He shared screenshots, emails, photos, every scrap they still had. Within 48 hours, the account was suspended. When he created a new one, it was banned again. Then came the messages: "Stop. You don't know who you're dealing with. If you love your family, let her rest." Even journalists were cautious. A foreign correspondent who'd once covered human rights cases in the Gulf told Elaine off the record, "You won't find justice here. You'll find walls made of money and fear." The story flickered in and out of existence, brief mentions on Reddit threads, whispers in expat forums, and anonymous Medium posts that disappeared within hours. Each time, the evidence was scrubbed clean, as if Leila's memory itself was being redacted from the world. And yet, silence speaks. By late 2024, Elaine returned to Cape Town. She set up a small foundation under her daughter's name, the Leila Project, dedicated to missing women in countries where power decides what truth is allowed to survive. When asked by a local reporter if she still believed her daughter was alive, she paused. "I don't know," she said softly, "but I know she didn't just disappear. People don't vanish, they are erased. And erasure is something only the powerful can afford." At night, Elaine still dreams of the last call. Leila's voice, shaky but defiant: "If anything happens to me, you'll know why." No one ever found her body. No one was ever charged. And somewhere, on an island ringed by coral and silence, a single light still flickers on and off in an empty villa visible only to satellites, indifferent and unblinking. The file remains open, unofficially, in the hearts of those who still whisper her name. Because in every empire built on secrets, truth is not buried, it's buried alive. Somewhere in Dubai, the skyline still glows with the wealth of men who believe their secrets are safe. But in Cape Town, a mother still keeps her daughter's photo by the window, waiting. They erased Leila from records, from files, from memory, but they couldn't erase the truth. Who ordered the deletion of that footage, who flew that unregistered jet, and who made sure her name disappeared from the world? In a city built on silence, one woman tried to speak, and paid the ultimate price. This was the disappearance of Leila Hartman, and this is the story they never wanted you to hear. If her story moved you, don't let it die in the dark. Share her name, leave a comment, subscribe for more true stories the world tried to bury. Because justice doesn't start in a courtroom, it starts with remembering.